3 spine-chilling true jogging tales, unexplained encounters that expose sinister secrets. Sarah had always looked forward to her evening jogs in the quiet suburb of Maplewood. It was her moment of peace, a brief escape from the chaos of being a single mother. But one night, a run that usually helped clear her mind turned into something she couldn't shake. As she rounded the corner by Maplewood Park, she stumbled upon an old church she had never noticed before. The building was dilapidated, crumbling, but glowing eerily like a beacon in the night. Whispers echoed faintly from its decaying walls, wrapping around her like an icy hand gripping her heart. Unease crawled up her spine, but she pushed the thoughts aside and continued her run, the image of that church seared into her mind. The next evening, curiosity tugged at her feet, dragging her back. Anxiety churned in her stomach as she approached the church. What was once an abandoned relic seemed animated now, watching her as she drew near. The air shifted. It felt like something was waiting, lurking just beyond her sight. She glanced at her neighbors. They were bunched together, murmuring in low tones, their wary eyes flicking toward her and then back at the church. Something was off. As she tried to brush off her dread, a nervous laugh bubbled up. She shook her head, dismissing the tension wrapping around her like a cloak. Days passed. The whispers in the neighborhood grew darker, twisting into stories of missing pets and strange happenings. Maplewood was slowly morphing from a peaceful suburb into a nightmare where unseen dangers lurked just out of sight. People eyed each other like wolves circling prey. When she approached the local authorities, hoping for reassurance, they laughed at her concerns, their smirks cutting deeper than any blade. "It's just a church, ma'am," one officer said, but Sarah felt the growing dread gnawing at her trust in those sworn to protect. As night draped its dark cloak over the town, Sarah unraveled more about that church. Tales of its past seeped into her mind, stories of dark offerings and unholy gatherings, sending chills down her spine. Tonight, a suffocating bond began to form. Why had she been drawn to this sinister place? Why did her neighbor, who occasionally babysat her children, seem to know more than he let on? The unease in her gut intensified. As the sun sank lower, shadows stretched like dark fingers across Maplewood, twisting the town into a grotesque mimicry of its former self. What were these whispers? What did they mean? And why did the chill of night seethe into her very bones? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos.
And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The situation escalated quickly. Footsteps behind her echoed in the silence of the night. Each night, the whispers grew louder, calling her back to the church, looming like a dark specter. One evening, she returned home to find a note pinned to her front door. "We know you're asking questions, Sarah. Stop before it's too late." Her heart raced, knowing her children were blissfully unaware of the dangers closing in. She had trusted her neighbors, but now they felt like shadows, watching her, waiting for the right moment to pounce. As she stood in the darkness, staring at the note, fear clamped down on her throat. Who could she trust? What was happening in Maplewood? The tension thickened, wrapping tightly around her as the church's whispers grew louder, a haunting melody echoing through the night. She felt caught in a web of dread, and the shadows began to shift, swirling with a life of their own. Just then, her phone buzzed, and her breath caught. "Are you at home alone right now?" The question slashed through her nerves, and she stood frozen as the darkness pressed in around her, the weight of unknown horrors closing in. The next night, Sarah felt the weight of the town's silence pressing down on her. The streets of Maplewood felt like a graveyard, every shadow a ghost, and every corner a potential nightmare. She picked up her phone and stared at the message. Who was asking? She felt exposed, her heart racing as uncertainty clawed at her. She typed back but hesitated. The pulsing dread in her veins silenced any thought of pressing send. Her children had already been settled into bed, unaware of the sinister undercurrents swirling in their normally peaceful neighborhood. She took a deep breath, searching for something, anything, that could distract her from the gnawing fear. But the house felt suffocating, the familiar walls now echoing with forgotten horrors. A sudden noise broke the eerie stillness. It was a soft knock on the door, tentative yet insistent. Panic jolted through her. Who could it be? She approached the door, peering through the peephole. Nothing. The world outside was dark and empty. She opened the door just a crack, her breath hitching. The chill from the night wrapped around her like a vice. "Hello? Is anyone there?" she called out, her voice shaky. Only the whisper of the wind responded. Her gut twisted as she considered the note, the implications of being watched. What if this was part of it? With her heart thundering in her chest, she stepped outside, clutching the doorframe as if it was the only thing holding her to reality. The moon bathed the street in a ghostly light, but all she saw were shadows, creeping and shifting like dark memories refusing to fade.
Sarah looked left, then right. No cars, no people. Just the old church waiting at the end of the road, a dark silhouette against the night sky. Suddenly, she felt it, eyes on her. She whipped around, scanning the horizon, the prickle of sweat forming on her skin. Distant whispers carried through the air, half-formed words laced with malice. "Help us. Find us." Ignoring every nerve in her body, she headed toward the church. The whispers grew louder as she approached, each step heavy with dread, the chill more oppressive. Why did she feel compelled to listen? As she drew closer, the church took on a life of its own. The darkened windows seemed to pulse, as if breathing, as if aware of her. When she reached the door, a sense of foreboding washed over her. What lay inside? The stories her neighbors had told swirled in her mind, sacrifices, ancient rituals, the town's dark history. And still, some inexplicable force tugged at her, urging her to enter. Just as she reached for the handle, another sound sliced through the darkness. A low growl rumbled from the shadows behind her. Sarah spun around, her heart stopping. Standing near the edge of the light was her neighbor, Thomas, the one who'd babysat her kids. But something was off about him. His expression was vacant, his eyes glinting with something otherworldly. "Sarah, you shouldn't be here," he whispered, his voice low, almost gravelly. "It's not safe." The air crackled with tension. She felt rooted to the spot, blood pounding in her ears. What was he trying to warn her about? As he stepped forward, shadows lunged with him, twisting and curling around his figure like snakes about to strike. But before she could react, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket, the screen lighting up with another message. "You're in danger. Trust no one." A high-pitched scream echoed in the air. Her instincts kicked in, and she turned back toward the church. What secrets awaited her, and what price would she pay to uncover the truth? The fog of fear wrapped tighter around her as she felt the edges of reality fray. Was she losing her mind, or was something sinister truly at work in Maplewood? The growl from the darkness sent a jolt of adrenaline through Sarah. She felt the world shift around her, the air thickening with something unnameable, something old. She faced Thomas, heart racing, desperate for answers. But his vacant stare revealed nothing, only that deep, dark abyss lurking behind his eyes. "Thomas, what do you know?" she managed to choke out, just above a whisper. Her instincts screamed for her to run, to take the kids and drive far away from Maplewood. But she couldn't leave, not with the whispers drawing her closer, deeper into a waking nightmare. He took another step forward, and with it the shadows responded. They flickered like candle flames, swirling toward her, hungry and insatiable. "You must listen," he breathed, fear mingling with urgency. "Who needs me?" The question hung in the air, sharp and unwelcome. Those who were lost, trapped. His voice trailed off, his gaze drifting as if he were somewhere else entirely. A pinprick of dark voids flickered in and out of existence behind him, pulsing with their own rhythm. Sarah couldn't breathe. She took a step back, but the church loomed behind her, beckoning and menacing all at once. Suddenly, the shadows rippled, not just around Thomas, but all around the street, as if they were alive. "Sarah, don't." With every instinct screaming at her, she darted toward the church door. Her hand gripped the cool metal handle, heart hammering as she flung it open. The creaking of the door echoed ominously, giving way to a dark abyss beyond. Inside, the air was stale, filled with the musty scent of decay. The whispers grew louder, swirling around her like a tempest, echoing her greatest fears. She stepped inside, every nerve in her body screaming to turn back. As the door swung shut behind her, a rush of cold air slithered across her skin.
She fumbled for her phone, its light flickering dangerously in the thick darkness. The only illumination came from a stained glass window at the far end, casting grotesque shadows that danced wickedly on the walls. "Mama," cried a voice, softer than the rest, but unmistakably familiar. Sarah's blood ran cold. "Help us." It was Emily, her daughter. "We're scared, Mama." "No," Sarah gasped, panic clawing at her throat. "Emily." She dashed down the aisle, breathless. The chill deepened. Her heart raced as she plunged deeper into the darkness, trying to source the cries. Each step echoed like thunder, mixing with her pounding heart and the whispers that skirted the edges of her sanity. "Find us! Save us!" She reached the altar, where candles flickered but failed to provide warmth, revealing a crumpled piece of paper left behind. Trembling, she picked it up, the words scrawled hastily. "They will come for what is theirs." Before she could absorb the weight of the message, the temperature dropped further. A cold wind blew from nowhere, extinguishing the candles in a heartbeat. Shadows elongated, twisting into jagged claw-like shapes that reached toward her. "Sarah!" Thomas's voice broke through the darkness, now layered with something more sinister. "You have no choice." The moment was broken by an unearthly howl, an inhuman sound that sliced through the air, vibrating in her chest. It pulled her attention toward the confusion of shadow at the church's other end. Something stirred, something ancient and corrupted. In the fleeting light of her phone, she saw them, figures materializing from the depths of the shadows, their eyes glistening like dark bowls of malice. Her heart raced, and she realized she wasn't just in a haunted church. No, she was a part of it now. With no time left to think, she knew she had to escape. But would she ever truly leave? Or would Maplewood consume her like it had so many others?
The shadows began to close in, and she was left with one choice. The echoes of her daughter's voice tugged at her, amplified by the darkness that threatened to swallow her whole. "Find me." Panic surged anew as she backed toward the door, but it wouldn't remain open for long. Could she save her children? As the shadows lunged for her, she knew she had to act fast. Could she confront whatever evil lay ahead, or would it take more than courage to survive the night? A final scream tore through the silence, echoing in her ears as she reached for the handle. What awaited her on the other side? The door slammed closed behind her with a shattering thud, noise swallowed by the oppressive stillness of the church. The darkness pushed back, thick and suffocating, as if trying to smother her. Her breath came in short, panicked gasps, each exhalation mingling with the whispers that crawled around her like rats in a sewer. "Help us." The voice again, so soft it felt like it was carried on a breeze. But it was no breeze, it was a warning, a lure designed to snatch at her heart. "Emily," she shouted, her voice cutting through the heavy silence. It echoed, a futile plea drowning in shadows. Without thinking, she ran toward the source of the voice, skidding across the cold stone floor, her phone's light illuminating grotesque murals depicting anguished faces writhing in torment. It felt like the very walls of the church closed in, watching, waiting. "How can I help? Where are you?" Desperation twisted her insides. She was trapped, bound to choices that all seemed equally dangerous. The shadows at the church's far end pulsed, thrumming with a life of their own. They were gatherers of souls, a seductive force pulling her deeper into a nightmarish embrace. "Find us," the whispers transformed into a chant, a monotonous drawl that filled her ears, echoing her worst fears. The altar ahead loomed like a massive maw, wide and hungry. The cauldron of shadows below the altar bubbled, foaming and roiling like a storm-swept sea. She felt an unnatural urge to step closer, her body betraying her instinct to flee. Something twitched beneath the cloud of darkness, struggling against the weight of its own imprisonment.
Sarah, Thomas's voice again, warm yet chilling as it wrapped around her like a serpent. You're too late. She swung her phone toward him, illuminating his form now half consumed by shadow. What do you mean? Her voice trembled, the words thin in the air. There's no escape. They are coming back, he whispered, his eyes wide, pleading, a glimmer of fear she had never seen before. You must make a choice. Will you save them, or will you let them go? Her heart pounded in her chest, igniting a sense of urgency. In the flickering light of her phone, the figures in the shadows dance, grotesque and contorted, screaming silently for release. They were the trapped, a parade of lost souls. We can't leave them, Thomas. I won't.
The words erupted from her mouth before she could contain them. Yet deep down, doubt gnawed at her. The weight of responsibility was unbearable. Sacrifice, Thomas breathed, the word hanging ominously in the dark like a doom-laden bell. What? Confusion set in. The shadows surged, coiling tighter. Their freedom requires a price. A life for a life. His voice fell into a whisper, pleading like a desperate prayer. Her mind raced. Could the church demand her life for her children's? Or worse still, was it demanding Thomas's life? I can't, she started, but another howl split the air, drowning her thoughts. It reverberated through her bones, a promise of dread. In that moment, the shadow surged forward, clawing for her, desperate to claim what they were due. Panic shot through her veins. Sarah turned toward the altar, heart hammering as she recognized the distorted forms, faces she knew all too well, twisted in agony and yearning. "Emily!" she screamed again, and the shadow slowed, almost faltering. "Choose, Sarah." Thomas's voice cut through the chaos, steady and cold. "Before they reclaim what is theirs." With a surge of defiance, she summoned all her courage and dashed toward the altar, where their figures writhed in desperation. She had to make a choice, one that felt like a knife twisting in her gut. But the whispers wouldn't let her think long. They were growing impatient, and the shadows bled toward her like a dark tide. "Please," she cried, desperation clawing at her throat. "Help me!" Suddenly, the form shifted, revealing the faces of her children among the shadows, contorted and lost, their cries merging into one haunting wail. An overwhelming dread flooded her senses, sliding down her spine. Who would she sacrifice? The weight of the world almost crushed her. Would it be herself, Thomas, or would she risk the uncertainties that awaited beyond the altar? With a trembling heart and an anguished cry, she stepped forward, ready to face an emerging truth. But then the darkness shifted, as if it held a heartbeat of its own, and in that moment, everything shattered. What awaited Sarah in the depths of those shadowy figures? What unspeakable horror hovered at the brink of choice? The darkness pulsed, twisting and writhing, as if it were a living entity eager to consume her. Shadows closed in tighter, pulling near her skin like icy fingers. She felt their despair wrap around her, whispering secrets she didn't want to hear. Each breath tasted of rot, thickening the air, choking the clarity from her mind. "Emily," she cried again, but her voice faltered, fading into the ocean of despair. Panic clawed at the edges of her sanity. She took a step back, but the shadows lunged forward, hissing in a cacophony of screams that clawed at her heart. The altar shimmered ominously before her, a slab of stone smeared with darkness, echoing the promise of sacrifice. "Make your choice, Sarah," Thomas urged again, his voice now increasingly distant.
You can't hesitate. But hesitation felt safer than plunging into this pool of horrors. Sarah felt tears prick at her eyes. What if this was all some sick game? Or worse, a test of her love? Her heart twisted painfully at the thought of her children's faces. How could she choose? The twisted shapes in the shadows morphed again, taking on the appearance of her children, their eyes wide with pleading terror. "Mommy, help us!" Their voices merged into a distorted symphony of desperation. A bitterness settled in her mouth, the taste of helplessness, betrayal. They would not let her go. The church throbbed with anticipation, an unseen force urging her closer. "Please," she begged, the words spilling out like a last breath. "Tell me what to do." "Sacrifice yourself," a whisper came,
A voice mingled with the shadows. It was sweet and sickening, laced with promises and sins. "Save them. We will make them whole." "Don't listen," Thomas shouted, but the shadows crept nearer, their whispers rising into a frenzy. "If you give your life, they'll be free. You'll be their savior." The figures lunged again, a wave of desperate souls reaching for her. Their fingers brushed her skin, icy cold. She gasped and stumbled back, a horrifying vision flashing in her mind. A world of loss, severed connections. "What if I don't choose any of you?" she shouted defiantly. But her voice felt small, swallowed by the darkness. "Then they will take your children," Thomas warned with a voice tinged in dread. "You will be left with nothing." Her heart raced. There was an ancient truth buried deeper in her soul, a connection that transcended this hellish nightmare. A flicker of hope ignited as she realized the power of her love, an unyielding force that could fight back even this suffocating darkness. With renewed determination, she stepped forward, squarely facing the shadows, fueled by a maternal rage. "No, I won't give you anyone," she screamed, and as the words tore from her throat, a shockwave rippled through the air. The room shuddered, the altar cracking under pressure, releasing plumes of smoke. "Choose," the shadows raged back, their voices now a blend of shrieks, clawing and gnashing. "Choose before it's too late." A sudden surge of pain jolted through her, as if her heart were being ripped apart. Sarah felt herself being torn in two, a battle between love and despair, between sacrifice and survival. The shadows tightened their grip, threatening to pull her under. In that pivotal moment, everything collapsed. She felt light flooding the dark, a warmth igniting her insides. Sarah faced the abyss of shadows and made a choice that made her blood run cold. "I will do it," she screamed, and the darkness roared in response, a cacophony of relentless fury. But as she braced herself for the plunge into the gaping maw of terror, a flicker of light dimmed. The shadows suddenly retreated, recoiling as if struck. "What is happening?"
she gasped, confusion wrapping around her like chains. Too late. A new voice echoed through the church, cold and commanding. It was deep, resonating off the walls. "Your choice has already been made." Suddenly, the shadows parted, revealing a figure in the distance, darker than the void surrounding them. Its presence filled her with dread, a silent promise of impending doom. "Now, Sarah," it whispered, "it's time to meet your fate." And as Sarah stood frozen at the altar, faced with undeniable terror, she realized that choice had always been an illusion. What unseen forces had been lurking in the corners of this church, and what fate awaited her now? A tremor shuddered through the air, making the altar vibrate beneath her feet. The dark figure loomed closer, its features hidden beneath a shroud of shadows, yet she could feel its eyes boring into her soul, feeding on her terror. She glanced back at Thomas, desperately hoping for a flicker of hope, but his face mirrored her dread. The shadows writhed in anticipation, as if they reveled in her despair. "Who are you?" she managed to whisper, her voice trembling. The figure stepped forward, revealing just enough of itself to send Sarah staggering back. Its skin seemed to absorb the light around it, merging seamlessly with the darkness. "I am the culmination of despair," it intoned, its voice echoing with 1,000 lost souls. "I am here to collect what is due." Collect? The words sprang up inside her, heavy and bitter. "What do you want from me?" "There's no need for questions, Sarah. You know what you have to give." The shadows curled around her ankles, anchoring her in place. "Your love, that potent currency of sacrifice. You will pay for your choices." A single tear rolled down her cheek. The truth settled on her like a weight. To save her children, she would have to forfeit her own light. That sacrifice felt unbearably heavy, yet the shadows clawed at her resolve. "You can't take me!" she cried, forcing her voice to rise above the fear. "You can't!" The church roared, its stone walls trembling, as the figure waved a hand, and the very air crackled with malice.
But you've already made your choice by resisting. Fate cannot be altered. Your children were chosen long ago. Fury surged in her breast, mingled with despair. She could almost hear Emily and Ethan's voices, faint echoes pleading for her to fight. "No," she screamed, the sound reverberating like thunder. She braced herself, gathering every ounce of strength within her. "I choose to fight." With that declaration, her heart erupted in a surge of warmth that ignited the darkness. Light cascaded from within her, radiating against the shadows that threatened to consume her, casting them back momentarily. But as quickly as that light flickered, the figure laughed without mirth, a sound that chilled the marrow in her bones. "Do you think your light bothers me, child? It simply amuses."
The shadows surged forth again, brushing against her like a suffocating fog. They clawed at her thoughts, her childhood mistakes, her regrets, the moments she had failed her children. They whispered promises of power if she surrendered. The weight of it all crushed her spirit, twisting it like a vice. "Tommy," she called, her voice faltering once more. "What do I do?" "Fight, Sarah," he urged, fists clenched at his sides. "They can only take what you allow them to. You are stronger than they know." With newfound clarity, Sarah took a deep breath, grounding herself against the storm of shadows. Thomas was right. Her love wasn't just a choice, it was a weapon. She concentrated, willing that light to fiercely cut through the darkness, forgetting her fears as she clung to the hope woven into every loving memory of her children. The air crackled as her resolve hardened, rippling outward like a shock wave. "I will not give in," she roared, channeling every ounce of her maternal love into a force as potent as a cyclone. The ground shook, and the figure faltered, momentarily taken aback by her defiance. But a smirk crept across its lips. "Foolish girl, do you truly believe you alone can withstand the void?" A searing pain shot through her chest, a reminder of what was at stake. She felt herself unraveling, the shadows clawing at her essence. With a strength born of desperation, she willed her children's voices to envelop her, a fierce chorus of faith igniting her soul. But just as she felt the tide turning, a new horror unfurled. A figure extended an inky hand, and shadows poured forth to claim her. "This is your moment of reckoning. You are not the first to fight, and certainly not the last." Sarah's breath hitched in her throat. Was she truly doomed? In this hellish church-turned battleground, a flicker of doubt crept in. The shadows danced around her, each ripple a reminder of the ties binding her to fear. Would she succumb to despair, or could she break the bonds and escape the growing abyss? The altar shook violently, threatening to split as the timeless battle began to curl upon itself, spinning into a dark vortex. "Make your choice, Sarah," the figure crooned, "before our time runs out." As the shadows writhed, an imposing darkness loomed ever closer, and she faced an impossible decision: fight or surrender. What would it cost her to save them all? The dark figure lunged forward, its shadows elongating, stretching toward Sarah like a grasping hand, threatening to swallow her whole. The church's walls trembled, and a low, ominous sound echoed through the sanctuary, a chorus of whispered secrets and forgotten screams, mingling with the thick, suffocating atmosphere. "Sarah," Thomas's voice cut through the darkness, desperate and urgent. "Focus on the light, remember what you fight for." In that instant, the memories flooded back, each laugh, every tear, all the nights spent comforting Emily and Ethan.
They were her everything, and they needed her. She felt the weight of the darkness pressing against her, but with each breath she held tight to those memories, igniting a fierce flame of determination within her. "Get away from me!" she shouted, refusing to yield. The shadows recoiled, and for a split second she saw a glimmer of confusion in the figure's gaze. "You think your feeble memories can protect you?" It hissed, its voice fraying at the edges, dripping with malevolence. "You don't even comprehend what you offer, or what you stand to lose." Another wave of shadows surged, and Sarah felt a sharp, piercing pain in her heart, freezing her breath. She glanced at Thomas, his fists now shaking, as if he too could feel the pull of despair trying to wrench them apart. "Don't give in!" he shouted again, his face flushed with determination. "We can face this together!" A roar erupted from Sarah's chest. She reached deep within, to that place where a mother's love burned bright, a shield stronger than the encroaching dark. "I will never give up. I won't let you take my children." It felt like a battle cry reverberating against the cold stone walls, reverberating with power. The shadows flared around her, contorting, squeezing tighter, trying to hush her defiance. But she lifted her chin, her heart thundering in her ears. She poured love into every word, every thought, every ounce of her spirit. In a stunning burst, light emanated from her very core. It poured forth like molten gold, transforming the church, illuminating the grotesque figure, scrambling its shadowy form. She felt the gravity of her choice. The price demanded was steep, but love had never been free. The figure staggered, momentarily dazed, as its grip loosened. "No, this is not how it ends," it screeched, a terrifying sound that echoed off the stone. Now it was its turn to reel back, swallowed by the light, but not without retaliation. "You think you're special. You're merely one of many," the figure hissed, a swirling swirl of despair regaining its footing. "Do you think this insipid light can stifle a force like me forever? I will haunt you, haunt every corner of your life." The specter's words hung in the air like poison, sowing seeds of doubt that burrowed into Sarah's heart, gleefully taking root. Now she was the one who staggered, feeling the very ground shift beneath her. "Tommy," she whispered, fear clawing at her throat. "What if this is only the beginning? What if I've only angered it?" From behind, the shadows thrashed violently, forming hideous faces that leered at her, pointing, mocking her resolve. Could she truly fight something that thrived on her every fear and regret? "Sarah!" Thomas grasped her arm, his grip firm against the encroaching darkness. "We can't falter. We have to find the strength together. Remember, our love is our shield." Just as she felt herself unraveling, she noticed a crack in the shadows.
A glint of light broke through, stemming from the altar where they stood. It pulsed with energy, a heartbeat of hope amidst the chaos. "Thomas!" she exclaimed, her fright momentarily overshadowed by the spark of inspiration. "The altar! We can use it!" But the dark figure cackled, rage emanating around it like ripples in water. "You truly believe you can gain strength from a relic of this forsaken place? You're as foolish as all the others." Sarah felt the desperation fill the air, a push and pull as shadows battled against the light within her. Thomas stood resolute, urging her to trust that flicker of hope, pulsating steadily. Together, they stepped toward the altar, their hearts joined in an unbreakable bond. But just as they reached for that light, the shadows surged forward, hungry and relentless, hungry for the one thing they both fought to protect. Would they find the strength to harness that light before the dark consumed them, or was this a trap that would seal their fate forever? As the shadows lunged, Sarah's heart raced. There were no guarantees in this battle. All she could do was muster everything inside her. The altar pulsed with promise, but could it save them in time? The altar glowed brighter, pulsating with energy that promised salvation. Sarah felt its warmth beckoning her closer, each step resisting the clutches of the dark figure nearby. A pang of terror raced through her. Would the light stand against such wickedness? Could it really protect them? "Let's go!" Thomas urged, his voice straining against the chaotic din. He pulled her toward the altar, where swirling fog from the shadows thickened, slithering around their feet, trying to drag them back. Sarah's breath quickened. They could not falter now. The memories of Emily and Ethan rang louder in her mind, almost drowning out the taunting whispers creeping in. They were her anchors in this storm. As they reached the altar, a jagged echo ricocheted through the church, reverberating off the high ceilings. The figure twisted, arms flailing, shadows snapping at them like wild dogs. "Foolish children, you think you can meddle with forces beyond your understanding?" It hissed with venom, a sickening mix of rage and delight. "No!" Sarah shouted, desperation spilling from her lips. I stepped onto the altar, letting the light wash over her, flowing into every crevice of her being. The warmth felt electrifying, almost divine, lending her strength. But the dark figure lunged once more, its form a whirlwind of shadow and hate. As it surged, Sarah realized its intent. I could feel the darkness hungry for her fear. It wanted to suck her into despair, to whisper all her failures into her ear until she caved. The truth twisted in her gut like a knife. Could she stay strong enough? "Hold on!" Thomas roared as he joined her atop the altar, their hands clasped. Together, they formed a small bastion against the encroaching malevolence.
The light flared wildly around them, flickering like a candle in a rising gale. But with each moment passing, they felt the energy from the altar pulse faster, and the shadows pressed closer, rumbling like thunder. "You don't belong here!" it screeched, clawing its way toward them. "You think love can save you? Love has chained you more tightly than any darkness." In that instant, a revelation struck Sarah. "No!" she shouted back, desperate now. "Love is my power. You've misjudged me." With every breath, she summoned the ache of loving her children, the depth of her need to protect them. The shadows dimmed, writhing as if in pain, but the figure only laughed, a jagged sound that sent chills up their spines. "You're all the same, all consumed by what you long to protect. I will break you." And then it lunged, the darkness surging forward like a tidal wave. Thomas and Sarah braced themselves as heat ignited around them, embracing the light's full might. Time slowed. They could feel every heartbeat, every desperate gasp for air. Then, as they stood united, they pulled from the light encased around them, calling on its strength. "Together!" Sarah gasped breathlessly, hoping the words resonated in the very marrow of their being. In a crash of brightness, the dark surge collided against them, a tangible force that sent an explosion of energy throughout the church. The figure screeched, its edge fraying and shrinking as the light cascaded outward, pushing the darkness back. But even as they fought, Sarah's heart raced with unanswerable fears. Was this truly the end of the dark presence, or just the commencement of an even deeper nightmare? Then, as the light pressed forth like a lance, the faint sounds of sobbing echoed across the sanctuary. A chilling awareness washed over Sarah, and she stumbled back. Those cries were familiar. Unwillingly, they pulled her attention away from the fight, dragging her thoughts toward her children. "Sarah!" Thomas shouted, but she couldn't look away. There, she saw shadows consuming figures clad in the light, the faces once filled with love, now distorted in agony. Fear slashed at her heart. The light was revealing something more nefarious. "What is happening?" she whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. The altar trembled, and a new voice emerged from the shadows, one silky sweet, yet dreadfully inviting. "Come, join us. There's room for all in the darkness. Let go." What lay behind the whispers? Sarah's heart raced. In that instant, every flicker of hope threatened to extinguish as her resolve wavered. Could they still survive this nightmare, or had the shadows already claimed their prize? Sarah's breath hitched as the shadows writhed closer, their forms twisting into grotesque shapes that seemed to taunt her with familiar yet nightmarish features. The once comforting faces of her children morphed into twisted visages, eyes wide with terror and mouths stretched in silent screams.
Panic rippled through her, and in that moment she felt the darkness tighten its grip on her mind, urging her to give in to despair. "No!" she cried, shaking her head violently. "They're not yours! They are safe in the light!" Thomas's grip on her hand tightened, grounding her. "We can't let them take your hope," he shouted, his voice cutting through the cries echoing around them. "Fight it, Sarah! Remember who you are!" As if stirred by his words, the altar beneath them flared, its glow intensifying in response to her turmoil. The energy pulsed, infusing her with strength, but the shadows remained relentless. The haunting voice continued to weave threat and temptation, wrapping around her mind like a serpent. "You think the light will shield you? All those you love are already lost. If you let go, this agony can end forever." For a split second, doubt flickered in Sarah's heart. Could it be true? Were Emily and Ethan beyond salvation? With each heartbeat, the pulsing darkness gnawed at her sanity, bringing forth visions of her children's smiles, now gone. She saw them, trapped in a void, lost to the malevolence that surrounded them. "No!" she shrieked, as if her voice could break the illusion. Another wave of power emanated from the altar, and shadows recoiled, shrieking in protest. Sarah blinked through the mist of despair and clawed her way back to the surface, struggling against the tide of darkness. That's when she remembered the warmth of their laughter, how they would huddle together on cold winter evenings, sharing stories and dreams. "They're still with me," she shouted, her voice allies in the battle for her soul. "Their love is my light."
The dark figure faltered, its form shifting in uncertainty. Shadows ebbed and flowed like smoke, hesitating as if taken aback by her fierce proclamation. "Love cannot protect you here," it howled, but the voice sounded less certain. "Then let it burn brighter," Thomas roared, drawing Sarah closer. Together they summoned the memories that filled their hearts. Each sound, every touch, they carved out a space that the shadows could not cross. The ring of light broke through the nightmare, igniting an inferno of hope. For a brief, dizzying moment, the shadows receded, revealing figures amidst the chaos. Their children, weak yet reaching out, yearning for her. "Mom, help us!" Ethan's voice cut through the noise, sharp and clear, striking a chord deep within Sarah. "Ethan!" She felt the desperation of his call, braided with the power of her love. With resolute determination, she stepped forward, breaking the hold of the dark presence and breaking from Thomas's grasp. "Stand strong!" he yelled, frantic eyes staring wide in horror as Sarah plunged into the depths of the darkness. Her heart thundered, carrying the souls of her children along with her. The shadows curled around her, but no longer felt like chains. Now they felt like a dark embrace. "We will not be broken," she screamed into the void.
But the twisted voice was quick to respond, darkly sweet and commanding. "You'll wish you had answered." A sudden calm enveloped her, contrasting painfully with the frantic battle above. Sarah's mind fogged briefly as tendrils of shadow reached out, pulling at her resolve, probing her psyche for cracks. In that instant, the scene shifted. She saw her children again, but this time their faces were obscured, shrouded in darkness. Was this an illusion? "Stop! Please!" she begged. But the darkness merely swirled, revealing fleeting glimpses of sorrow, pain, and loss. Each face twisted and turned away, and Sarah felt her heart sinking. Her children, lost amid the shadows. Thomas's voice broke through, echoing in the void. "Sarah, remember why you fight. They need you." With renewed urgency, she clung to his words. The light from the altar roared back to life, filling her with fire, igniting determination deep within her core. "Together," she shouted as she pushed back against the bleakness, taking another ambitious step forward. "Together, we will not be consumed." But even as the light surged around her, the shadows whispered secrets. "Together, oh sweet child, they are the darkness, and you will become one too." In that moment, she understood. The darkness had always known. It was more than just fear. It cradled sorrow, regret, truths about her past she had tucked away. The shadows were not just trying to break her heart, they were seeking her soul. And just when clarity washed over her, that chilling voice beckoned again from the abyss. "Join us. Let go, Sarah. The darkness is what you truly desire." What was she truly fighting for? The truth clawed at her. Could she hold on, or was the darkness destined to swallow her essence whole? With her spirit trembling against the weight of the decision that loomed ahead, she steeled herself for the unimaginable fight to come. Would she face her deepest fears and emerge in the light, or would the shadows claim her forever? The darkness throbbed, pulsating like a living creature, eager to consume her. But as Sarah struggled against the shadows surrounding her, a sudden, fierce flame roared to life inside her heart. It was the memory of her children, Emily's laughter, Ethan's mischievous grin. Their joy became a powerful anthem in her soul, battling back the whispers hoping to ensnare her. "No!" she screamed into the void, each syllable igniting a spark of defiance. "I will not let you take me!" The shadows writhed, a cacophony of wails and hisses hurling against her. "Foolish girl, you'll be just another lost soul among the many." But I could feel the warmth of the altar behind her, a brilliance radiating that pierced through the darkness. It urged her forward, grounding her in the center of the tempest. The whispered lies slithered through her thoughts,
groping for her fears, but she shook them off fiercely. Your darkness does not own me.
Sarah! Bellowed, love pouring out of her like a flood, washing over the shadows, peeling away their layers of dread. The dark figure faltered, momentarily silenced. You think you can fight. You don't know what you face. But she pressed on, surging towards her children with renewed vigor, each step fueled by enduring love. Come back to me, she cried. The shadows curled as if trying to shield themselves from the intensity of her heart's call. Sarah, Thomas shouted, his voice grounding her as he joined her once more. Together, we can break this curse. Their hands intertwined, a steady tether against the swirling darkness. We've fought hard, and we won't let go. But the shadows surged again, clawing hungrily. Your hope is a feeble thing, it lashed out, enraged. They could feel the shadows pushing back, trying to isolate Sarah from Thomas. Stay with me, she cried, heart racing, realizing the dark entity's intention. Always, he responded, each word a lifeline. Together! Where their joint hands met, radiant light exploded forth, churning and swirling in a beautiful blaze as they summoned every ounce of love, every precious memory. It began to envelop the darkness, seeping into the very fabric of despair. No! The figure screamed, eyes blazing as the shadows receded, tearing and ripping away from the warmth. But Sarah wouldn't stop. She couldn't. Take that! She shouted, feeling strength inside her swell like a tidal wave. You will not break us! With every ounce of love she possessed, she pushed the light outward, illuminating the void surrounding her. The shadows shrieked in agony, their forms flickering as the brilliance threatened to consume them whole. In response, the darkness lashed out with renewed fury. You think you can defeat me? I have thrived on fear and sacrifice for centuries. And we choose love, Sarah yelled, challenging the void. Something inside the grasp of shadow shifted. The cloaked figure stumbled back, a hint of vulnerability visible through its venomous wrath. Together, they screamed as one, and in that moment their combined light burst forth, a radiant explosion that lit the church like a star. No, the figure screeched, tried to claw its way back, but it was too late. The light enveloped it, burning away the darkness like ice melting under a scorching sun. As Sarah and Thomas held their ground, the shadows writhed and melted, twisting into smoke that faded into nothingness. A ferocious wind whipped through the church, swirling around them, inviting the warmth to wash over their minds, soothing away the fear. The altar pulsed one last time, radiating light like an explosion, and then silence. Sarah's heart slowed, the weight of the darkness lifting, replaced by a suffocating awe as everything around them shimmered like a dream. From the mist and fading shadows, Emily and Ethan appeared, stumbling out from layers of darkness, sheltered in a cocoon of light, eyes wide with relief.
Mama, they cried, relief and love mingling like sunshine breaking through the clouds. Emily, Ethan! The tears flowed freely as Sarah dropped her arms, rushing to embrace her children. They melted into her with warmth, securing her heart with love. Thomas stepped back into the soft glow, relief washing across his features. We did it, Sarah. We fought them back. As the shadows faded into whispers, the church remained, but it felt different now, lighter, purged of the malevolence that had clawed at their souls. Now what? Sarah wondered aloud, hugging her children close. It took mere moments for the three to realize they were no longer alone. The townsfolk had gathered outside the church. Curious eyes bore witness to the extraordinary. Sarah, a voice called from the crowd. Neighbors, friends, all smiling in fragile hope. You did it. You freed us all. With a glancing gesture to the once haunted building, the air hummed with reverberating light, shimmering in the twilight. A collective sigh of relief rippled through Maplewood, an unspoken gratitude forming a bond, and they felt the darkness dissipate, replaced with warmth and community. Sarah felt her heart swell, holding her children close. The terrible weight of fear and loss had been replaced with resilience, a reminder that love could conquer despair in ways they never thought possible. As they left the church behind, hand in hand, she glanced back, a smile breaking through her tears. Together, she whispered, knowing they would face whatever came next with love as their guiding light. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, a new dawn broke over Maplewood,
a testament to their bravery, a community revived from nightmare into hope. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now. Seriously, it fuels the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this heart-pounding conclusion. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful ending. Don't wait even one more second. Your support matters.